Over 100 small modular reactor designs are in development right now. Rolls-Royce SMR has active development agreements in the UK, Sweden, and with CEZ Group in the Czech Republic. Oklo's pilot at Eelson Air Force Base in Alaska has publicly targeted operation in the late 2020s, though nuclear project timelines routinely slip and vendors are showing up at large data centers, manufacturing facilities, and remote industrial sites with proposals. Today, we're decoding micronuclear and small modular reactors for commercial and industrial operators. I am Daniel Burke, and this is Energy Answers, brought to you by Tactical Energy Group. If your facility runs a 24/7 load, has constrained grid access, or you're simply tired of being dependent on a utility that does not care about your uptime, this conversation may well be for you. So here's the short version. SMRs and microreactors are two distinct product categories aimed at different operational problems. SMRs are generally 300 megawatts or less, aimed at utilities and large industrial users. Microreactors are 20 megawatts or less, aimed at remote sites, off-grid loads, and facilities that need something compact and transportable. The question for your operation is whether either of those categories can actually deliver on your timeline at your site with a vendor who will still be standing when the fuel bill comes due. If you caught our episode on C&I microgrids, you already understand why operators want true energy independence. Today, we're looking at what might be the most powerful version of that yet. The decision question here is whether your facility should invest in micronuclear or SMR technology to secure reliable on-site power and what the financial and operational risks actually are. That is a serious capital decision, and the answer depends heavily on which technology, which vendor, and which timeline you're actually evaluating. So, what is the technology risk spectrum? Not all SMRs are the same technology. There are four main paths being pursued: light water reactors, high temperature gas reactors, molten salt reactors, and sodium cooled reactors. Light water SMRs carry the lowest technology risk because they are scaled down versions of proven designs. They use the same low enriched uranium fuel already in use in U.S. reactors today and are intended to provide scalable baseload electricity. Lowest technology risk is not the same as commercially available today, though. NuScale's flagship U.S. project was canceled in 2023 on cost grounds, and no Western light water SMR is yet operating commercially. This category is the furthest along. It's not yet at the finish line. High-temperature gas reactors are designed for facilities that need both electricity and high-temperature process heat. Think hydrogen production or thermochemical industrial processes. The capability is real. The commercial timeline is significantly longer. Molten salt and sodium-cooled designs offer efficiency advantages and lower operating pressures, but they're early in development. The more differentiated the design, the higher the technology readiness risk. And that is a direct relationship. Now, why does the financial case rest on manufacturing? The cost argument for SMRs is not primarily a nuclear argument, it's a manufacturing argument. Traditional large-scale nuclear plants are built on-site, unit by unit, at enormous capital cost. SMRs are being designed for factory fabrication and serial production, the same economic logic that made aerospace manufacturing scalable. Rolls-Royce has stated that approximately 90% of their SMRs manufacturing and assembly is carried out in factory conditions. The World Nuclear Association describes it this way: this is a move from economies of scale to economies of series production. The diligence question you need to ask every vendor: how much of your unit is actually being built in your factory today, and what is your unit per year throughput? Now, the HALEU problem. This is the risk vendors are least likely to volunteer. More than half of the SMR designs currently in development require high assay, low enriched uranium, HALEU, which is uranium enriched between 5% and 20%. HALEU is not yet commercially available at scale in the West. At present, only Russia and China have the infrastructure to produce it at scale. Centrus Energy in the United States began demonstration scale production in October 2023. That is early stage. The transportation infrastructure does not yet exist at the volumes needed. Establishing that supply chain will require significant capital investment and ongoing government support before private market demand can really carry it. If a vendor is pitching you an advanced reactor design that requires HALEU, your first question is not about the reactor, it's about the fuel. A stranded reactor is still a capital expenditure. Finally, staffing and total cost of ownership. Even the most automated microreactor designs still require licensed operators on duty continuously. That's a fixed labor line, no solar, wind, or gas asset carries. Factor it in before you model the economics. So here's where I land on this. The technology, real. The use cases, real. A 24/7 load profile with constrained transmission access is exactly the scenario where on-site nuclear makes operational sense on paper. But there's a wide gap between real technology and your facility by your deadline. Over 100 designs are in development. Most will not reach commercial scale. The vendors building the most differentiated technology, the ones with the most compelling pitch decks, are often the ones carrying the most technology and fuel supply risk. The development signals worth watching right now are the Rolls-Royce development agreements in the UK, Sweden, and with CEZ Group in the Czech Republic, mostly at the selection and site work stage, not construction, but that is meaningful momentum. And the Oklo pilot at Nielsen Air Force Base in Alaska, those are near-term indicators of whether vendor timelines are translating into operational reality. So watch those deployments closely. One note on capacity factor projections. There is very little operating history for remote or mobile reactors. The closest historical analogy, the MH-1A floating plant in the Panama Canal Zone in the 1960s, ran at roughly 54% capacity factor compared to over 90% for modern stationary nuclear. That is one data point from a different era and a fundamentally different technology context, but it is a reminder that vendor capacity factor projections for novel deployment models are unproven. Modern stationary nuclear achieves over 90%, and that track record simply does not yet exist for the remote and transportable designs being pitched today. Obviously, I don't run your facility. That's your job. But my job is to bring you answers to the most pressing energy questions facing commercial and industrial operators. So here's the bottom line today on micronuclear and SMRs. The technology is advancing and the commercial signals are real, but a C&I facility evaluating these options today is making a technology maturity bet, a fuel supply chain bet, and a vendor financeability bet, and a regulatory timeline bet to boot, all at once. The clearest near-term case is remote industrial sites and large data centers with constrained grid access. Heavy manufacturing with process heat needs is a longer dated opportunity. So here are the questions to take to your team. What is the technology maturity of this specific reactor design? Is it light water, or is it something more differentiated with a longer commercial runway? Does the design require HALEU? And if so, what is the vendor's documented fuel supply plan? What percentage of this unit is actually being assembled in a factory today? And what does the vendor's production rate actually look like? Can this vendor reach financial close on your project without sustained government subsidy? And what happens to the project if that support changes? Hey, if today's episode got you thinking about an on-site power project you have in the works or one that you are planning, I want to help you. Me and the team at Tactical Energy Group created the Energy Decision Blueprint. And if you're an Indiana-based commercial or industrial operation spending 5 figures or more on electricity each month, and you are in energy improvement mode, that means projects, rate decisions, expansions, or major equipment decisions, here's how it works. We jump on a call, you and I work to understand your situation, your project, and I figure out as quickly as I possibly can if I can actually be helpful to you. If I can, we'll move on to data, bills, interval data, quotes, pro formas, whatever's relevant. And then my team crunches it and gives you a full opinion, whether the project economics are real, whether the payback actually will materialize, if the vendor modeled your specific rate and operational realities correctly. And we'll also surface opportunities you may not have yet considered. You'll get the full write-up. We'll go over it on a follow-up call, and you're obligated to nothing else whatsoever. If this interests you, click the link in the description below or go to tacticalenergygroup.com and look for Energy Decision Blueprint. Thanks for listening to Energy Answers by Tactical Energy Group. If this helped, send it to another operator you know who's dealing with the same headache, and visit tacticalenergygroup.com to get more practical tools for your facilities.